Okay, good afternoon. This is Renetta again, and today's September 11th. I would like to talk about the two internet systems that I created. The first internet system is the ACOM system, ACOM, and it's an acronym for Atmospheric Communications. The ACOM system, this is the preliminary concept of the ACOM system. It's a holographic internet system, and it uses the ionosphere. And in the ionosphere, how the system works is that it takes communications, verbal communications, written communications, software, programming, and it basically beams them into the ionosphere as light particles. Okay? It beams the communications at the speed of light as light particles into the ionosphere. Okay? Once it gets into the ionosphere, I'm still debating whether or not I want there to be in this particular system. Hold on. This system, I believe, is the open system, and in the ionosphere would be seeded with nanosatellites that's kind of shaped like Saturn. The nanosatellites would be self-energized from the ionosphere. The electromagnetic grid that is in the ionosphere would be self-energizing, and they would be basically floating through the Earth's ionosphere. So it's not going to be satellites in space, it's going to be nanosatellites in the Earth's ionosphere, and they would be seeded over the entire ionosphere. So that way, everyone, everywhere on planet Earth can have access to the internet, access to, telecommunications, access to, but this system is the open system. Okay, the nano receivers kind of look like Saturn. That's it over here. Okay, it would be hovering in the Earth's atmosphere, and they would be self-energizing, meaning that they'll be able to produce their own energy, and the wind in the ionosphere would keep them afloat. Okay? Now, the light particles would then be beamed at the speed of light to the nano receivers. The nano receivers are built and designed in two ways: to receive communication and to transmit communication. They would receive the light particle communications, and the network that's in the ionosphere would transmit the communications to the intended host. Okay? It's fueled by wind and solar energy and the electromagnetic grid. The ACOM system is an open system, meaning that it's a separate system that's designed for non-sensitive data. It's non-sensitive data. Again, like if you're a bank, you would not be in the ACOM internet system. Why? Because the ACOM system is a system that can be hacked. Okay, the ACOM system would be open to anyone as long as it doesn't, as long as it's not sensitive data, right? That's the ACOM system, and that's basically how it works. It's a holographic system using light particle beams that's beamed up. So you have a device. And how the information or the communication is transferred is it takes the communication, converts it to light energy, and at the speed of light beams it to the nano receivers. The grid, the nano receivers that's in the ionosphere. The nano receiver would receive the information and then at the speed of light, or possibly faster, transmit that information to the intended sender, to the intended receiver, sorry. That's how it is. It's an open system, okay? That means anyone that's not using sensitive information can enter into the ACOM system and do their transactions or whatever. Okay, so that's the ACOM system. The ECOM system is the second internet system. And the second internet system, ECOM, is an acronym for Electrical Communications Internet System. And it also uses the ionosphere, but it bypasses the grid. It doesn't use the grid. It doesn't use the nanosatellites that's seeded in the ionosphere. Okay? The ECOM system is a closed internet system. And by closed, I mean if you're dealing in sensitive communications, like you're a bank, you're a government, you're the military, you have to do some sort of transaction that is sensitive, online banking, online shopping. The ECOM system is the system that you would use, and the ECOM system does not use the nanosatellites that's in the ionosphere. It works similar to how we bounce sound off, like when a radio sound. And basically how it works, I'll just run through it really quickly. So the communications, so you're writing a communication or whatever, you're drafting something on software. What the ECOM system does is it encrypts the communication. Oh, sorry about that. It encrypts the communication into, it converts it, into electrical energy. Electrical energy. That electrical energy is then transferred through the atmosphere into the ionosphere, but it bypasses the nanosatellites. So it's not device to device. It's device to the actual ionosphere, much the same as how our radio waves travel. Now we bounce the communication off the ionosphere into the ionosphere. It bounces off the ionosphere, and then it gets, we direct it through the ionosphere, the electromagnetic grid through the ionosphere, and then it gets downloaded to its intended host. Right? Again, it's the ECOM system is a system that takes communications, converts it to energy, bounces it off the ionosphere, and then transmits it to the intended host. Okay, now the ECOM system is a closed system. It's not an open system. And anyone that's in government, banks, businesses, anyone that deals in sensitive data, sensitive material, would use the ECOM system, not the ACOM system. Now, you can be in the ECOM system. There are portals that can allow a person to go from the ECOM system into an ACOM system. And it makes concessions for someone in an ACOM system to access the ECOM system. Why do I allow this? Well, if we have one internet system, and there is no dividing line between sensitive data and non-sensitive data, it makes it much easier for a person to hack into sensitive information. Now, I strategized and I said, how can we ameliorate this problem? I said, what we need to do is we need to have two internet systems. And a person would then sign into the internet. Once they sign into the internet, let's say they sign into the ACOM system, which is an open system. If they have to use sensitive material like online shopping, online banking, they would then have to access the ECOM system, which is a totally different system, which is a much more difficult system to hack and a much more difficult system to penetrate because it's not one system. They would have to go through portals to get into the closed system. They would have to bypass, they would have to gain access into the closed system, the ECOM system. Once the ECOM system recognizes them as a valid entry permit, they would be allowed into the ECOM system, and then they would be able to conduct their transactions. Okay, so instead of one system where you have sensitive information and non-sensitive information together, and it makes it rather difficult for a hacker to penetrate, no, I absolved that, and I created two parallel systems giving access to both. One is a closed system, and it's backed by several security channels that you have to pass in order to enter. Otherwise, you will not enter. You have to be able to verify who you are in a multi-pronged or tiered way in order to get access into that system. The system has to recognize you through more than one access points. Once the system acknowledges you, you're then able to enter into that system, do your transactions, and when you're done, you're able to leave that system. And you can access that system from an ACOM system. You can also go from a secured system, the ECOM system, to access the ACOM system. And this access would be permitted because the ECOM system is a system where you're able to do secured and non-secured transactions. The ECOM system, you're permitted to do secured and non-secured transactions in the closed system. But in order to be as a full, in order to gain full access into the ECOM system, you have to have, you either work in government, work in a bank, work in business, in order to have full access in the ECOM system. In the ACOM system, you're only permitted to enter the ECOM system to perform secured transactions. So you have to state why you're entering into the ECOM system. The ECOM system has to do an identification, a verification. You're permitted access, you complete your transaction, and then you have to, after your transaction is completed, you are taken out of the ECOM system. And you're allowed back into the ECOM system. The ECOM system is a full system where you can do secured and non-secured work. However, there are different tiers in the ECOM system depending on if you're a government, you're a bank, you're a business, or whatever. So that's the two internet systems that I designed. Okay, thank you. This is Renata Jones. Bye.